Okay, should we get started or should we wait for a couple of minutes? How's week 7? Bad question. Oh, it's ICS week.
Coming to that.
I think some of the professors at UCI are participating as well, right? That's Jeopardy or maybe not. Oh, you mean the ICS Jeopardy?
The ICS Jeopardy. We are hosting the ICS Jeopardy.
Got it.
So we're hosting a Jeopardy event this Wednesday at ICS. Check the room again.
4028.
4028. Yeah, 42. Yeah. But it's not this building. Don't go here. With the 8 club. Yeah, so every club has some event they're hosting this week. And this is ours.
What are other interesting events happening during the
Well, there's a well, actually, if you're interested in more data analysis, not like AI or ML, well, I assume you're on interested in AI because it's here. But tomorrow, data UCI is hosting a Python introduction to Python using data analysis like NumPy and Canvas. So it's not exactly AI or ML, but it's in like the same field. So if you're interested in like a broader sense, then you can also that might also be interesting to you.
And the sub's also helpful for like, like cleaning data and all
Yeah,
that sort of stuff. So
for sure.
it's good knowledge for this tool.
Awesome. I think 6:05, we can get started. Hi, everyone. My name is Nitish Nagesh. I'm a first-year computer science PhD student at UCI, of course. So I got used to saying that. Why did I decide to conduct this workshop? Because I've been interviewing myself, and I believe it will be good to get to know what the process is like, even though it's not exactly similar for each company or for each stage, whether you're an undergrad or master student. But then it'll be good to get to know the overview. Okay, I hope my PowerPoint presentation skills are not too rusty. Why should I care? Why should you care? we all need a job or internship, right? But honestly, why should you listen to me? Don't have to. And since you're here, you're obligated to at this point, I guess. But anyway, you can also doze off. I wouldn't mind. So you might be asking, will I be able to solve all these code hard questions, or you'll learn about Markov models after this workshop? So unrealistic expectation for a 1-hour workshop. And what will you learn by the end of this workshop? Learn just some general, the main focus will be on the interview process, what the interview process looks like, some tips and how to navigate the journey, and also some useful resources at the end of the presentation. And please don't let me speak for 1 hour because it'll be very boring. Please ask questions. I'll be happy to answer them. And chances are that I have an interesting story to share behind everything I put on the slide. So just stop. And I think also as students, we are trying to look for resources or a community to get guidance or resources. After this workshop, I'll hopefully be able to point you to some resources, and we can create a community to prepare well, right? So first of all, the title of the workshop is interview process, but to get the interview, you need to first apply, right? So the first way you can apply is, of course, going to the careers page. I'm quickly going to go through this. LinkedIn, of course, Handshake, career fairs at UCI, something which you can look at. I think there was a career fair last week. But the best way to apply is through referrals. If you know someone who's working in the company, reach out to them. Don't feel shy to reach out to them, because I'll tell you a little secret. People get paid to, if they refer a candidate and the candidate gets in, they get a bonus. So for example, in companies like Amazon or Google, the bonus is like $500. So in fact, they want to refer you. Doesn't so reach out to any random person and ask them, hey, can you refer me? Yes, and they will be happy to do it. There are some people, of course, who won't unless they know you, but then it doesn't hurt to reach out. Don't reach out to the hiring manager and say, please refer me. But try to reach out to people who are working in the team, especially the team which you're interested in, and they'll be able to refer you. If you need any referrals at some companies, yeah, you can ask me. I know a couple of people who are working, and if you're in the process, yeah, try reaching out to me, and I can point you to some people who can help you. Of course, it's not guaranteed, but yeah, it's a good way, because I can tell you all the statistics. 30% of people who are applying through referral get in, and even just think about it, right? Word of mouth is like very powerful. Maybe at this point in time, we're still students and we're still trying to navigate the process, and you want to go through everything online. But then later on, as you grow in your career, referrals become super important when they just ask team members to say, hey, do you know anyone? And then, yeah, they know a friend who knows a friend. And usually they get preference, at least for an interview. I'm not saying you'll get hired just because you got a referral, but there's a very high probability that you get the interview, and then you can take it forward from there. When do you start applying? I think for summer internships, this workshop is mainly going to be the summer internship process, but then usually even for jobs, you start applying during the previous fall or 2 or 3 quarters before you graduate. So for summer 2023, that's the next summer, you have to apply in fall 2022. If you've not got an internship and you're still looking for summer 2022, there are still companies which are hiring this May, and then you still have 1 month before you can submit your CPT application in case you're an international student, or if you're just a domestic student, you still have time, so don't lose hope. So how many companies should you apply to, right? Usually people say I apply to 500 companies. I mean, you could, but it's unrealistic, right? But I thought 100 was unrealistic, but I can actually show you the 100 companies I've applied to. And then I heard back from 10 companies, right, in terms of different assessments or phone interviews. And I got 5 on-site, which is like virtual interview hours, which means I moved from the first phone interview stage to the technical interview process. And then how many offers did I get to 1? How many do you need? You just need 1 offer, right? So
I said don't have more.
I mean, how many do you need?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Of course, it's off. You're always welcome to have more. In fact, many people do have more offers. And then the interesting thing about offers is it's good to line them up together, because then you get a chance to negotiate
Exactly.
with companies. In terms of, there's not a lot of negotiation going on for internship offers, because it's sort of decided and so on. But then for full-time offers, yes, there's more scope for negotiation. And that again can be another workshop. The UCI Career Center has excellent resources, so you should definitely check them out. They usually conduct these workshops and that. So yeah, please go to them.
Yeah, I just want to mention, I'm at the other end of the game.
Awesome.
I just retired last year.
Awesome.
And in fact, one of the earlier sessions, Nitish had said I should definitely come for this one because I can speak from my experience. Because I had probably like in my life, I had like 50 or 60 interviews, something like that. And I hope at least probably 15 jobs. So, I've gone through the whole life cycle.
You've done the whole rodeo. Awesome. Yeah, for sure. Please, if I say anything incorrectly, or if
No,
you
it's not
feel.
nothing incorrect, really. It's just that, there's some things work better than other things.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. So you know whom to reach out to.
Just one person's point of view.
Yeah. That's great. Yeah, sure. Any questions at this point in time? Does anyone have any questions, thoughts? Yeah, sure.
This is a quick question, but for a lot of, say, machine learning, internship roles, a lot of times they require obviously in the master's program or PhD as an undergrad, does it even make sense to apply to those where it doesn't make sense to apply to them? It's the minimum requirements higher.
Yeah, I think the question is, can I apply to machine learning position as a bachelor student or undergrad student? I think it depends on the role. So you could just check there are two things, right? When you apply for a particular position, there are basic qualifications, and then there are good to have or preferred qualifications. Basic qualifications are something which you have to sort of satisfy. Usually nowadays, I think there's an automated system which is in place which filters out your qualifications. And then if the minimum requirement is not met, then there's very less chance that you're getting in. But then I don't know exactly whether there people are hiring or not hiring for undergrads in machine learning. But then if you have relevant projects, if the minimum requirement is an undergrad degree, they will be happy to interview. And then you just have to show what value you can add, right? That's extra level which you have to go. But then there are some roles, let's flip it this way, right? There are some roles which mostly PhD students are doing. But then I know a lot of master students who got into that position because they did excellent research and with publications and so on. So it's something similar even for different level.
The many companies will actually pay for your master's education, because if you are a bachelor's degree and if you've done some project which is relevant to the company, and you know a lot of the company too, and you should always know as much as possible about the company before the interview, because you should show that you value the company, you know. So if you go like that and you've done some projects, you have some even student experience in their particular field that they're interested in, then they may hire you and actually pay for your masters.
Right.
And it's actually happened to me. That's what I'm saying.
Awesome. Yeah, I think companies do have these education reimbursement programs where you can work with them and also sometimes do a master's part-time. And then usually there are some companies which also pay the full tuition depending on how much budget they have. And yeah, it again varies depending on like whether you're an international student or not, but it doesn't hurt to ask, right? You don't have to say, should I sacrifice my job for going to grad school? Probably not. But it's interesting that once you get into the company, you have a lot more flexibility and opportunities and what you can do, so on and so forth, right? Okay, moving on. I'm going to quickly go to this slide because in the next few slides, I have some specific case studies. So the general interview process for software engineering and machine learning interview positions is first, you have a technical assessment, either which is given to you, and then you have like a couple of days or 1 week to solve it. And then it's like a 30-minute to 1 hour test itself, where the questions sometimes are lead codes type of software engineering type questions. And sometimes if they're doing machine learning, they ask SQL questions as well for you to solve within that time period. And then the next round is usually a phone interview with the recruiter first, who is usually the HR, and they will call you and find out about your availability, about your timeline, whether you have competing offers, whether you're available to work during that time frame, and so on and so forth. Right? So this is just general interview, just to get a vibe of whether you're a good fit for the company. And then there's a round with the hiring manager. It'll be a little more technical, where they'll ask you maybe detailed questions about your resume and some projects. And then on-site interview is where everything is now happening virtually. Usually, sometimes companies use different platforms. For example, Amazon uses Chime, Microsoft uses Microsoft Teams. Most of the companies use Zoom. And usually you have 2 or 3 or 4 people interviewing you, either back to back or one with a break. Sometimes it's also a panel discussion. And then, yeah, you get your offer. If you go through all these rounds successfully, you walk away. So at the sound of, I don't want to reveal the name of the companies. I mean, I could, but it's not relevant at this point. The relevant part is that it's a big company, and then this was my experience applying for their software engineering internship position. And this was for the PhD position, but I think there's similar process which is going on even for undergrads and even for masters. So I applied mid of December. don't apply so late. Apply earlier in fall, starting in August. And then I got an interview by the end of Jan. So it really took about a month or so back and forth. Not back and forth, but then it took a month for me to hear. And then on the 3 weeks later, I heard back for a phone interview. And it was 2 back-to-back technical phone interviews, which was on their platform online, and it was lead code type question. And then a few days later, I got back saying that I did not get selected. Initially, I wanted to go through the details of the exact questions and what the process is like and so on and so forth. But I just wanted to open, or give a broader perspective in this workshop, and maybe in another workshop, delve into specific details of what exactly does the 45-minute interview process look like. So maybe that will be talk for some other time. At the end, if I would have got selected, I would go to the next virtual on-site interview around 3 to 4. It's usually 3 back-to-back 45 minutes interview, and this is mostly technical, right? So they said, a member in the audience said, it's good to know more about the company and so on. This is because in these on-site interviews, there'll also be some behavioral components apart from technical discussions. Usually what I've seen is in internship positions related to software engineering and machine learning, they, unless it's Amazon, they tend to focus more on the technical aspect. So it's extremely important to be very good technically, and also have a sound understanding of the company and the company's vision, mission, values, and what the team is exactly doing. So this is another medium-sized company. I put this because it's a different case study where I did not apply through a referral. I just looked at their website and I applied online in mid-December. Why mid-December? Because I was free, it was winter break, and I just applied during that time. And I just had Zoom call with the recruiter who was just getting a feel of how things were and if I was a good fit. And then they moved my application to the next round, where I had a 60-minute Microsoft Teams interview with the hiring manager. Interesting thing was, during that interview, like, my video froze and my internet connection was unstable. And at the end, it was so choppy that I could barely understand what that person was saying, but I still managed to get to the interview. And I just turned off my video, didn't help with the bandwidth. But then I somehow managed, they somehow understood me, and I understood, I don't know how. It was great, right? It was not the best, not something you should do. So tip here is, please make sure your connection is stable. Have your mobile hotspot on in case you need a backup. And then Teams is clunky because try to install their desktop application. It's better than the online. Just using it through the browser, you can blur your background. So, all these are very trivial things. We've gotten so used to this at this point in time where we tend to ignore them, but then we always know that the projector fails when you most need it. So please make sure that you have your technical issues sorted out and there's nothing on the way, because you're already under quite an amount of pressure to answer the questions to make a good impression, and technical difficulty should be the last of your concern, right? And then this company was pretty fast in terms of giving the on-site interview, and then I had 3 back-to-back interviews with different people on the team. And here the first person asked a general overview of all my projects. The second principal data scientist went deeply into one specific project and literally asked me from A to Z, whatever I did, right? And the third principal data scientist asked me about a different project. And in the last, of course, there was always scope for questions, but the idea was, you really need to know your projects well, and please make sure that whatever you're doing, you're putting on the resume, right? You can speak for it. So usually what happens is, when we want to get the interview, sometimes it's common, you would have seen these memes or posts where it's just automatic parsing, and then people just put all possible keywords just to get to the interview, right? And you get the interview, that's fine. But then now your reputation is at sort of stake, right? When you put all this information and then you get the interview call, and you're not able to answer those questions, then it's hard, right? You don't feel good. Well, it doesn't matter. Other people, forget about others. Like you should feel good about preparing for the interview, about doing the interview itself, and finally getting the offer or not is, of course, not under your control. Not under your control up to the point where what is under your control is the preparation and your performance during the interview, right? Whether you get the offer or not is like depending on multiple factors, whether the company is hiring at that point in time, whether they have really requirements, or are they just hiring just because they have to satisfy the minimum requirements. So it's a lot of factors which are going on. So don't worry too much about the outcome, but then the interview process is what you should be enjoying and doing more about. So interestingly, I got an offer for this company, but I did not accept the offer because they were having some unreasonable requirements in terms of me moving to cross country and not giving remote options and being very persistent about specific items and immediately telling me to sign the offer within like 2 or 3 days or 1 week. And even when I told them I have competing offers. So this was like a trade-off which I did. It was the interesting thing is I don't know at what confidence I rejected this offer because I did not have any other offer, right? This was the only offer I got. And I said, you know what, I'm not coming to this because this was still early on. You say this is in like February. And then now I'm reconsidering what should I have accepted the offer because I got a lot of interviews after that, and then I got rejected by the company. Right? So it's like a trade-off. At this point in time, I'm still deciding whether I have to do research or do an internship and so on and so forth. But then it's a gamble, of course. You can't definitely say because all these offers don't come back to back, or there's a lot of time. You don't know whether you'll get a better offer later, or you should just accept the offer which you have right now. So that's a choice. That's a choice which you make, and you have to face the consequences or be ready to accept the consequences. It's not like you have to accept every job offer or every internship offer which comes up with. So that's the reason why it's not. I didn't put this slide to brag about myself, right? Because I'm saying after this, it was very stressful because I did not get a lot of other opportunities. But then you just have to sometimes believe yourself and trust your gut. Any questions or comments? Okay. So this third company is a different role. So data and applied science intern. Some similar timeline where I had a phone interview with the recruiter. It was great, right? This company was like spot on with what I wanted to do. They were also very happy with all my answers. And then the virtual interview back to back, as you can see, there was 3. This was not the 45-minute interview, unlike the last company. It was like 1 hour interview, right? And boy, did they make use of those 1 hour fully. Like they were some people also extended their time. Okay, fine. So you should be flexible. You should be okay with you should have that energy and enthusiasm to carry on an interview with 3 people, and then they're not going to ask you the same thing, right? And usually what happens is in these interviews, everyone asks different items, and then after the interview, all the interviewers come together and they have like a sheet where they've made their notes, and so they discuss before making the final offer. It's not like one person has a veto for choosing whether you get the offer or not. In some companies like Amazon, there's someone called the bar raiser who sort of increases the intensity level, and there are some factors which go into the decision making process, but then it's mostly unanimous decision whether to hire or not hire. So this company was the first interview round was good in terms of the position, because it was data and applied science intern, and it was unlike the regular software engineering interviews, because here they were more focused on the business application of it, right? So they were saying, how will you explain these concepts to people in the business world? How will you analyze this machine learning model for a person who does not know anything about machine learning? So Unlike the previous interviews, which were more technical, was just based on what was already there in the resume or general machine learning questions or software engineering questions. This was more applied. So as you can see in the title itself, they're looking at business applications and how your approach while dealing with different set of problems which is thrown at you during a short period of time. That matters. That matters more. And so the second interview was even in greater detail about, it was conducted by a folk who are like PhD, and the questions were pretty simple, but then I was not well prepared. So I don't have no shame in saying that, because there were some simple questions which I could not answer, and I felt I should have prepared better, right? So it's okay to feel that way. It's okay to not always be at the best performance, but the interesting thing is the important thing is you have to learn and move on, right? And see how you can do better next time. The third interview was, again, it was a mix of technical and behavioral questions. And this was great, right? I felt this was the best interview which I had ever given in my life. And then I heard 1 or 2 days later, it's like, oh, you know what, I didn't get selected. So I retraced back and understood that it was because of the second interview, which I probably didn't get the offer. But then there was another company which had a similar outcome. There's no point in going over again. So this, like, as you can see, out of these 3 case studies, we saw that, like, what was the timeline, right? So somewhere in mid of December, I applied, or end of November, December, and then you get an interview call back usually after 3 weeks or a month. So once you get that first phone interview, right, things start rolling fast. Even if you get selected or don't get selected. So usually companies have a policy where they have to tell you the outcome of the interview within a couple of days, right? So Amazon has a policy where for internship, they have to get back to you within 2 days, and for full-time offers, they have to get back to you within 5 days. So in case you don't hear back, please make sure to email them saying, hey, did you have any update about my result? And sometimes they keep interviewing other candidates. They are in the pipeline. So sometimes they say you're still under consideration, and we'll get back to you. So yeah, sometimes companies just ghost you, and that's okay. There are many companies. You can always apply to other companies, and don't feel disheartened if you get rejected. Of course, it's easy for me to say it. I am in that situation myself now. I can't say don't get disheartened. Try to deal with rejections better, right? So that's one thing. So any questions before? You should ask more questions. No question?
How did you trace back to figure out where the mistake was for them?
Yeah, so that's the question is, how did I know whether I performed badly, or how did I know maybe that's the reason why I did not get the offer, right? Yeah. So after the interview, of course, your emotions immediately after the interview, your emotions get the better of you, right? You say, you know what, how can the company do that to me? I'm the best person and all that stuff, right? I mean, it's like, I don't want to draw any parallels at this point, but it's sort of, you first deny it and then you start accepting it, right? Saying, this is how it is right now. And then you analyze, how can I do things better? During the interview, it's hard to make notes because you're constantly then they're asking you questions. And sometimes it's good to reflect upon what they did, or just note down a couple of pointers. So I've written it down, and then I also gauged the interviewer's response to my answers. And so they were trying to direct me to a position where I can answer them, and they were not asking like tricky questions, right? But then when they went deeper into the specific concept, I realized that my knowledge was still at the surface level. So that's the reason I knew that is because the field itself for me, as the machine learning field itself, is very new to me. So I'm an electrical engineer by training, and I did embedded systems, IoT networks before starting my grad school. And when I got into machine learning data science, I've taken a couple of courses. and did some projects, but it was not at the level of what they were expecting. And I also knew that I should have brushed up my concepts more before appearing for the interview. So that's how I navigated that process. Yeah. There's another, if you have time, we'll go through another interesting case study of a company which took more than 2-3 months to, the process itself took 2-3 months. But yeah, you should ask me about it after. So has anyone done interviews here? Has anyone gone through internship interviews?
I don't know. This is like definitely.
Just software engineering.
Yeah.
So how was your experience like? So what was it like, similar process, or how
It was a pretty similar process. It was a big company, and I applied during the summer, and they got back to me within like 2 weeks to a month.
Mhm.
So after that, they had like a long online, like it is similar to what you're saying. It has like a long online assessment. It's split into like 2 parts,
Mhm.
and then based on that, they come in for a phone interview, and then we didn't have like three all in a row. Like, I just only had one,
Mhm.
and if you did bad on that one interview, then you did bad over, then then you have no other chance to make it up. So luckily, I got accepted because there was something that could improve on, but it is a very simple process. What you're saying, right?
Okay, cool. So are you happy with the company and the offer that you got?
Yeah, I think pretty happy with that.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, I'm pretty happy with that.
Oh, yeah, okay, cool. I saw some hands here. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I've been applying for internships. I definitely started kind of a little later than I should have. I started like right around like December, January. Just kind of like got on that late, but I've probably applied to like a little over 30 places, and I only heard back or gotten an interview at one. And that one kind of sucked because it was early on. It was one of the earlier ones I had applied to, and I had like the first like general interview, just like a recruiter, nothing technical at all, and that went well. And then the next one was, I think sort of similar to what he had said. It was like an hour long, and it was with a panel, but it was just like that one interview. And that one I just botched. I really did not do well. And it was too bad because it was all questions that I really did know the answers to, but I was kind of misunderstanding what they were asking. And I realized like 10 minutes after getting off the call, like, wow, like my resume probably seemed like a lie. Like I sounded like I really had no clue what I was talking about. And I really I genuinely it wasn't that I had just thrown, it was all real information. It was stuff I knew, but I just totally misrepresented myself.
Right.
But it was just kind of too bad because I haven't gotten another interview since, so I haven't been able to make it up,
Yeah, that's. I mean, I'm sure you'll get you'll get an opportunity sooner than later. I just hope it's a good thing. Thank you for sharing your experience, because I think a lot of people are going through a similar journey, right? And so it's good to know that you're not alone, in a good way or a bad way. Right? It's good to know that you're not alone in this journey of not getting offers, and it's good to know that you're not alone in also getting offers, right? Because almost everyone, like you got accepted in UCI because you're smart, and you all, of course, did all the hard work, so on till now, right? And so there is, of course, very high probability that you get an offer, you get accepted. It's just a matter of time. Did you have?
Oh, yeah. So I had two experiences. The first one was getting into a startup. They asked really less technical than I would expect. No code. I mean, I guess it was more like general information. Kind of like onto your project, onto your resume. Say why you like for it. The other one was for quantitative trading. That was a little bit harder. Start off with a coding assessment, then go into mental math, then sequences, then you play a game, and then I got into the phone interview, but I realized my math is not good enough. So from the first question, I kind of knew I was not going to get it, but now it's kind of like brushing up again on that. And
So you
Yeah.
played a game?
Yeah.
What's like what game are you playing?
It depends a lot on the company, but some of them make you play poker, some of them make you play blackjack.
Yeah,
The
very
one I
interesting.
played was a kind of memory slash like fast thinking game where you have like the alphabet divided into two, and based on kind of like indication, you would know how many points you get. So you have to kind of remember your total points in your head, and then there's like maybe 20 rounds. You have 10 seconds to decide which one is the optimal bet out of like 4 of them,
Mhm.
and then you have to explain your strategy.
Mm.
So like, that one was short but mentally kind of challenging because you really have to concentrate and it's like constantly being really scared to do it.
Yeah.
But it was fun.
This is like an interesting experience, like play a game. And I think it's because company's culture also matters in their testing process, right? So you know also whether you want to go and join the company, because usually interviews are sort of a representative of how the company works. So if the company is taking too long to respond, if they're not very supportive of your decisions and so on, and so it's not, I mean, I won't say it's highly correlated, but then there's a chance that the company culture is not something which you have to look into. There was one assessment which I'd done for a company while I was looking for a full-time job, and they literally had me do 90 questions in 90 minutes or something. And it was all like not just MCQ based; it was actually writing C code. I'm like, boy, just like get this over with, right? This is not what I want. Any other experiences, or anyone apply for research internships?
Product market research, not like technical research.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Product market research.
Yeah, so
Okay.
it's like AI product.
Mhm.
I had two. The first one was at a startup.
Mhm.
What was that AI? And they actually did a whole week of like training, not training, testing, but it wasn't really challenging. It was more like just to make sure I know how to use what they required for their content research. So they paid me for the week of training and then they paid me the offer at the end of the week.
Based on your performance during
Yeah,
the week.
so
Okay.
they paid me for like the week. The next company was a bigger company, PwC, and
Mhm.
it was a really, I don't think it was a very conventional internship experience because they gave the internship specifically to people in my organization. So I got it pretty easily. So I can't really say that the experience is something that was very traditional. So I just did an interview with this one.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Thanks for sharing. I think usually some companies are historically higher from certain places, so they know that people from here are good, and they just want to give them a chance, right? Because internship, the bar is a little lower. It's sort of like a testing. I won't say the bar is lower. I would say it's an extended testing phase for whether companies want to hire you full time or not. So it's very hard for companies to judge everything within a 45-minute or a 2-hour interview, right? And so when you actually work with people, you know their working style, and you get to know more about the person, and then that's when they decide to extend the offer or not later. So it's great that you're able to manage those internships. Yeah. Congratulations. You were saying you applied to research internship as well?
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
So you said I figured out that there's a class called CS190.
Mhm.
It's usually offered in spring, and if you're interested in like machine learning or deep learning, I think it's a really good class to take. It's pretty easy, but also I realized it's kind of like a class that one also research
Mhm.
because the professor was really open about saying, oh, if you are interested, I'll work at a lab. So just let me know. And I contacted him like in the second week of class started, and I'm going to train there.
Awesome.
I thought it was like a pretty good class to take. If you have time next year. It's
Yeah.
medical. Yeah. So it's a really good choice. Yeah, I heard it's quite easy actually.
Well, it's super useful. Like Dr. Chen explained really all about like the combinations of using CNN models and like very specific details that I can't find on the good.
It's like such a good class.
Awesome, awesome.
Interview that you said like they go all out like more behavioral or like technical or like.
It was technical stuff, yeah. It was sort of just like, trying to think of like what the few. Like they at one point they had asked about like APIs I had used, and however they phrased it, I sort of misunderstood it to be asking about like web APIs. And I had really used that like once or twice, and I was giving like a vague, description of that one project that I'd used like a web API. But they're really just asking about like libraries in general, just like what libraries have you used. So for me to like kind of sound like I hadn't ever used like a library well programming, like that sort of thing. It was just kind of like, I don't know, misunderstanding like exactly what they're asking. But I realized very quickly afterwards like it sounded pretty bad.
I think a lot of people run into that issue because like now like your first encounter with APIs these days is usually like a web API, right?
Yeah.
Or, like or something else like that. But in practice, like technically the C standard library is a API.
Yeah.
No one really talks about it
Yeah,
as an
no,
API.
exactly. Yeah.
So
And it was like another one was like they asked about like STL containers in C, which was like something I had just gotten out of like ICS 46, which is like all about STL containers for the most part. And however nervous I was for the interview, I just did not like the phrase just did not stick in my mind. I was like, I think I recognize it. I don't know. But it's just like, damn, like I really spent like a whole quarter learning about that exact thing. And they asked about it and I just like, froze up, So I don't know. It happens.
yeah, I just want to mention that I have been on the other side quite a few times. At the interview board side. And so I can give some of my experience there.
Yeah, sure.
And that is, many times we are not looking for technical skills alone. It's much more important to see how this person fit into the company, because each company has a distinct culture.
Right.
So it's very useful and important to understand the culture before you go for the interview. For example, I work for Microsoft, it's an IT technical culture. I also worked at Disney Studios, where it's a totally non-technical culture. It's purely, behavioral. So that's one thing that would be really useful to go in, to study before you go into the interview. And the interview itself, for example, so intern interview is not so important because interns, they're just there temporarily, and they're not in a decision-making position and things like that. But if it's a permanent job type interview, especially if it's on site, then it becomes very important to fit in.
Right.
So the interviewer is always looking to see how will this person fit in. Will they be too arrogant and turn off people and cause friction in the team, or will they fit in the team nicely, will they fit into the culture? So, highly technical company like Microsoft, you have to really prove yourself technically. When a company like Disney or AOL, I worked for AOL and several other companies. I worked for the US government also. 9 years I worked in Washington, D.C., the Federal Reserve Board, US Treasury, Department of Defense, US Navy, and consulting, contracting.
Right.
So that's another different thing because as a contractor, you're not part of the employee group, but you have to, you're fitted with the contractors, not with employees so much. That kind of thing. So you have to be aware of that.
Yeah. Thanks for sharing your experience. I think it's extremely crucial to this culture fit, right? We don't know what it is until you go through it, right? Only if you get accepted, you're culturally fit, but if you don't, you're not. Right? It's sort of like that, right? You don't know what it is unless you do it, right? So it's hard to know beforehand, but it's good to familiarize yourself with the company's values, and especially the stakes are higher for a full-time job interview because usually, for example, right, if there are only 2 interviews for on-site, for internship, there are like 4 or 5 interviews. And I know a person for Apple, they did 8 interviews, 8 on-site interviews, and it was like 45 minutes to 1 hour each. I mean, yeah. So usually pre-COVID, right, people used to, the companies used to call people on site So it used to be like a lunch interview where you go to lunch with the team, and it will be more like a conversation, but then it will go actually be an interview. So you have to dress up, and then the good part about all these on-site interviews, which many people miss, is your flight expenses are taken care of, your hotel is completely booked by them, your cab ride is taken care of, you get free food, and you get to explore the beautiful campuses of these big companies. Right? Usually, big companies do it. Like some people, if you want to intern at New York, right, just get it. If you want to visit New York, get an interview, call it somewhere in Manhattan, right? And fly there, just spend some time, do the bike ride in NYC, interview, and then if you get the offer and if you like the place, then you can accept it. I know a lot of people who flew to Microsoft, who flew to Washington for Microsoft and Amazon interviews, Google interviews, right? And based on this, you get a feel of how the company is itself. It's harder now, but then things are opening up, so you know more about the company and they also know more about you. So interviewing is like a two-way street as well, right? They need you, of course, but you also have the power to choose whether you want them or not. So it's you're doing so much, you're putting in so much hard work, you're taking all these hard courses, you're doing all this in a very constrained environment. So you should also have the power to choose, right? So that's one thing which I want to sort of remind you. So some general tips: prepare before applying, right? Not after getting the interview call. You should prepare well in advance so that before even applying, or I mean, don't wait till you prepare to apply, right? That's like a big mistake. But then be in the preparation process and then apply. So you should be in a state where if you apply and you get an interview call, say in 1 or 2 weeks, you should be able to respond and clear the interview. So sometimes I've made this mistake where I start frantically figuring out everything after I get the interview, right? Which is hard because interviewing and applying for these jobs and internships is itself a full-time job. So it takes time and effort. So it's maybe you can prepare about all these company values and so on after you get the interview, but then the technical portion, you sort of prepare it yourself. And also, there's no distinction, right, between all these. You sort of get integrated in the culture. Everyone checks Twitter feed, everyone knows what crypto is going on. Just follow the company's page on Twitter, right, on Facebook, on LinkedIn, on Instagram as well, right? They have these cool events which keep happening. There's ML Summit keeps happening. They have some Discord. They have an email list. Get on those email lists, right? So spaced repetition is, of course, like a proven technique. It's very easy for me to say I am guilty. I've not done it, but it's important to remind yourself of all these concepts because our attention span, as much as we think it's a lot, right, on our memory capability, I thought, oh, I'm so smart, I can remember everything, but then just I can't remember what lecture was this morning, right? It's hard. So you need to keep practicing these concepts again and again. And so for machine learning interviewers, don't prepare only for machine learning type of questions. Also, they are software engineering questions. So that's one pro tip which I have for you. All this aside, right, we're under a lot of stress because of the pandemic, because of multiple responsibilities, because of all the courses and also all this interview on top of this. It's very, very important to handle stress well before, during, and after the interview, right? Handle stress well before the interview by, if you get very overwhelmed with all the stuff which I said, just pick one question, right? Or just pick the easiest question you can do. Just do the least possible thing just to get started. I think getting started is the hardest part. And once you get started, right, you keep going. But I don't want to be like a life coach here, but the important thing is when we prepare for all these interviews, we tend to forget all these aspects. And so it's important to remind ourselves of all these aspects. And we will get rejected a lot in life, right? So it's important not to it's important to deal with rejection in a very nice way, or you need to have your coping mechanism. Some people run, right? Some people stress eat, please eat healthy food. Some people just run, right? Like Forrest Gump, just run. Some people just sleep. My favorite is when some people just like stress clean their apartment. It's the best thing you can do because your mind is also clutter free, your apartment is also clean, and you have energy to do. Sometimes just take a walk in Aldrich Park, right? It's such a beautiful campus. Go hang out with your friends, have some fun, right? eat healthy. It's very important. It's directly correlated with your performance. This I know for sure because I'm researching food and nutrition recommendations. So please, I've seen myself. I did like a control and study, and where I ate just junk food and sugary items. I was fully bloated throughout the day. Literally couldn't code. It's more just sleep and watch Netflix all day. Right? But then it's important to eat healthy food, get sleep, especially before the interview. Exercise helps. There's a coping mechanism can also be working out, getting your blood flowing. So in case you're already, I am sure a lot of people are already preparing. As we know, we saw some people get interview calls, some people are in the process, but everyone, this is a constant cycle, right? Just because you get one internship doesn't mean you don't need another. And your first job doesn't mean that that is the job you're going to stay on forever, right? So I think as the AI Club at UCI, we have created a Discord channel for interview preparation. There's not a lot of activity going on because I posted some questions about interview, software engineering interview questions and machine learning interview questions. I need more help from you folks to get the ball rolling. So I'll team up with another board member and try to post more questions and answers more regularly. And like people are sharing their experiences here, right? So it can be like a lead code discuss section for UCI. So for the AI Club members, try to discuss whatever experiences you had, share interview questions. I mean, against NDA, non-disclosure, unless you sign an NDA. Right? If you sign an NDA, don't share it. It's not good. Seek help. Don't be afraid to seek help. By help, I mean you can just post on Discord, right? Or you can just ask your friend, hey, how's it going? How was your interview process like? You can ask board members at UCI, like everyone like super experienced with a lot of stuff. Ask your peers, right? Because they'll be the least judgmental and it's easiest for you to reach out to them. Don't wait and for like the next big thing to happen. You might be hesitant to go and ask your professors or teaching assistants, but your friends will always be there, right? Look for online communities, forums. So we're all CS students, right? We're all computer science folks, so we know how to find information. Final thoughts, right? I think we're almost wrapping up. Before that, does anyone have any questions? So look beyond the resources in this workshop, right? So comes back to the first point of why should you care? Of course, I don't have all the information. It's impossible for me rather to have all the information. I provided my perspective, right? So that it serves as a guiding tool for people to navigate the process. Work together, of course, and share your ideas. If there's one thing which you want to take away from this workshop, it's this, right? It's not over until it's over. Have confidence in yourself. Keep trying and enjoy the process. By enjoying it, that doesn't mean it's like going to be all fun, right? It means that trust the process and then don't worry too much about the results. Good things will happen. It's just a matter of time, right? If you have any questions, of course, I'm always there. Reach out to me on LinkedIn. I'm on Discord as well with a very weird name, but you can reach out to me on LinkedIn and I'll be able to answer questions. And here are some useful resources, which I'll post these links on the Discord channel because I don't think everyone has access to this presentation. But yeah, I'll post these links on Discord. And one thing which I want to finally say is we're starting this interview process preparation channel, right, on Discord. So I'll try to post questions regularly. You can try answering them, and then you can do it at your own time, or you can post those answers on Discord. Anything is fine. We can decide as a community how we want to take it forward. We can have a conversation on Discord. Yeah, that's it. That's it from my side. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Hi, that's me. Okay, sorry I got here late, but I believe you wanted to share something about your research.
Okay.
Hi, I'm Devin Wilson. I'm a first year MFA student over at Claire Trevor. I'm currently doing a lot of research. I just received grant funding for a summer project, so I'm looking for people who are interested in collaborating. I'm interested, a lot of my research is at the intersection of queerness and technology. I do a lot of 3D modeling, printing, augmented reality, And I'm working on a project tentatively called NIVA, which stands for Non-Human Intellect Virtual Assistant. So I've been doing a lot with the homo capitalistic notions of AI, specifically Siri and other at-home virtual assistants. And I'm currently working on a project where I'm trying to develop one of my own, a very rudimentary understanding of most of this thing. So like, this is very insightful. So thank you for having me. So if you're interested or want to learn more about, the projects that I'm working on, I'm here. I can also give you my email. But thank you for having me. This is great.
Yeah, thanks for sharing. Do you want us to write your email here so that people can reach out?
Sure, yes.
I can write it for you.
Wilson, WILSON, DG @uci.edu.
What kind of people are you looking for?
Literally anyone. Like I said, I'm at a rudimentary level, so I'm looking for more to obtain more information and research about the project. I received grant funding. Somewhat I'm still waiting to hear back from a couple different funding sources to see how large the project can actually get. But I have a 1 to 2 year timeline, so it's quite extensive. So this is like the base research starting in the summer.
Awesome. Yeah, thank you everyone. If you, like I said, if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me, and have a nice evening.
Come to our game event on Wednesday for ICS week. We'll be doing Jeopardy. It's unfortunate.
With these,
It's Wednesday, so literally 2 days from now, ICS 428, same time as this meeting. All right. He's ICS 428. 428. We have it from 6 to 7:30.
Okay.
You can get there, and I believe now is the picture.
So I'll just like summarize what we talked about.
He wants all the like.
Okay, sure. Can I see the picture?